If someone had told me how lonely living abroad can get, would I still have moved away from home? If you're new to this channel, my name is Vitali and this is my third year away from home. And I'm documenting my journey as I build my life away from home. In today's episode, we are talking about how lonely moving abroad is because, if I have not lost my mind at this point, let me give you guys some context before I moved away from home. So I got married in 2021. I moved away from home in 2023. I was working as a programs manager for a nonprofit organization while building my business as a makeup artist. Life was moving on as it always does until December of 2022 when I decided to apply to schools to come and pursue my master's degree. By God's grace, I got accepted and I moved in the fall of 2023. So since then, I am on this journey of self-discovery because moving abroad pushes you out of your comfort zone. You think you know yourself, you think you know your strength until you find yourself abroad and you have no idea where to start. Then you really find out if you are strong. So anyway, I'm not saying any of this to scare anybody, but I just want to share my experience and some of the things that I have observed. The first time I got here, of course, I didn't have a car then, and so my main mode of transportation was using the bus, and that's where I got my first culture shock. Public transportation back home is so full of life. There's all these things happening. Sometimes it's even wild that some of the things happen while you're in a bus because you'd find someone with a sheep that they're taking home or chicken. So it's just full of life. And by the time you're getting off of the bus, you probably have exchanged contacts with someone and things like that. And so getting on the bus here for the first time and realizing everyone either has AirPods on or headphones on and people just look like they don't want to have a conversation was a big shock for me. And I immediately knew, well, looks like I might just have to also get myself AirPods or headphones because that looks like how we get home here. It took me quite some time to get used to that dynamic because I'm also a very talkative person. So I always want to know what the other person is about. I'm curious to hear what happened to people's cats and dogs and all of that. So being this kind of person and entering this culture, and these are my initial experiences, I was immediately shocked. And that comparison with what public transportation is back home is two worlds apart. I'm kind of used to it now, but it just doesn't feel the same as back home. What I try to do sometimes is just play some music on my way home or read a book. Sometimes I do say hello to people, especially when they have kids, because kids are very, warm and they like to smile or stare. So I always try to say hello to the person I'm sitting next to if they want to be talked to. So that's also another deal because not everybody wants to be greeted and not everybody wants to say hello or good morning. So that's something I had to learn very quickly. It did help that I was going to school because I had a chance to make some friends just in the classroom. Otherwise, I don't even know how my experience would have been making friends or meeting people or even just navigating a whole new city. So school really helped with that. We had a very supportive student affairs office, especially as an international student. So that really helped my transition into a new country. But all the same, it wasn't easy. And I'm also just going to add the fact that I have my sister here with me also. So that makes a huge difference. I was initially going to go to another state, but we thought about it last minute and decided, you know what? I think it's better if we are just in the same state because I got accepted in several other schools. So having my sister pick me up at the airport and living together for the first few years, I should say, while I was navigating a new country really helped. And then my husband also joined me later. So I'm going to say that from my lens, just having family has really helped a lot. And for everyone who's had to figure it out by themselves out here, I can't imagine how heavy your initial experiences are. I'm just gonna give you your flowers because look at you. You did that all by yourself. Everything is so different when you're starting life in a new country. And relationships and friendships can feel very superficial because there's always a level of mistrust or just a level of caution that you have and the other person has. And so building relationships that are authentic really take time, because you have your own suspicions, the other person has their own suspicions. And again, moving away from home means all of your high school mates, all of your primary school mates, none of those people are there with you, and those are probably the longest relationships that you have. Your family is not there, and so you're literally building everything from scratch, and it can feel like your whole identity has been stripped away from you and you're building yourself again brick by brick, and that is the most uncomfortable feeling. To add to that, it doesn't happen overnight. It's like you have to go through years and years of feeling all these things and going through all of these things before you actually feel like you have a footing in this new country. I'm also someone who feels things very deeply, so I've learned to not take everything personally, even if sometimes it feels very personal when people make certain comments or people ask, oh, how do you speak English so well? Or do they teach English in your country? For some reason, all of the people I spoke to in my initial months in this country would always pick my accent as the first thing. And so I got a lot of questions asking where I'm from and how I can speak English so well, and if we are taught in English in our schools, and if we have lions in our backyard. So I got a lot of those questions, and sometimes I would honestly feel so annoyed. And I've also just started to anticipate that question every time I would have a conversation with a new person. But I'm not going to lie to you, it got exhausting at some point. So I just let people, make assumptions, or I would just give answers yes or no. I know some people actually come from a very good point and they just really want to understand where you're coming from and they are genuinely curious. But let me just tell you, it gets exhausting when you have to tell more than 10 people that you actually learn in English, you're taught in English, you're coming from a civilized country, and that things are not completely different. Like, we have cars, we live in houses, and all of that. So sometimes I've honestly just let people assume that, yeah, we have lions in our backyard. And the thing that surprises me still today is that all through my graduate studies, I never had a professor ask me to say anything twice. Or the office that I worked in, I never had moments of people asking me or saying that they don't understand how I speak. And so I would always ask myself, is it just the people I meet outside school that don't understand how I speak? Or is it a me thing? The time difference between your home country and the country that you're living or studying in abroad doesn't make things any easier, because, for instance, the time in my home country is always 10 or 9 hours ahead. And so by the time I'm waking up, things are winding down, everyone's going to sleep, and you just can have a 1 hour call because you're going to work, you're rushing somewhere, and your friends back home or your family also need to get their sleep. So it just doesn't make things easy at all. And it's so easy to fall out of some friendships or just some relationships, not because you want to, but it's just hard to sustain that when you're waking up to go to work and when they're winding down. So unless you're intentional about certain relationships, and if the other party is also intentional, it's so easy to just fall out of that friendship or that relationship. Making friends in a new country, it takes time. Think about how long it took you to build friendships back home with people that you probably met in church or from school. And now these are people that you're meeting afresh, so you don't have any prior relationship to them. Naturally, it takes time to build any relationship. But then moving abroad adds another layer to it, because you're from different contexts, different cultures. Then you're in this system in first world countries where many relationships feel very superficial. It feels like, what do I gain from you and what do you gain from me? If we're not gaining anything from each other, then we have no business being friends. And I get it, like, you can't be friends with everybody. There has to be some form of commonality. At the same time, relationships and just knowing people is not always about what I can give you and what you can give me. So I've also learned that sometimes it's not that people don't like you or people do not care. It's the system that has created this kind of relationships. I know it doesn't sound so nice saying this, but I put in the same effort that I receive from someone else when it comes to building friendships abroad. And I try to, share as much as I can and provide value in, for example, during my school time, we had to do group work and things like that. So when it's such contexts, I make sure that I do what the whole team requires of me. Some of those relationships did get out of the classroom, but some of them just stayed in the classroom. And once that quarter was done, that was it. I never spoke to some of those people. And again, it's just life. So learning not to take everything personally or think that, oh, this person just didn't like me, or they did not like my accent, or they don't care, is a mind shift that I had to embrace. Unless someone gives me a reason to believe that what they are doing is out of a malicious motive, I try to treat everything as, yeah, just information or feedback. As much as I'm building new friendships away from home, and I'm so blessed to have met amazing people and amazing friends, maybe not 1,000 people, but just 2, 3, 4, 5 people in my circle of people who gave me a chance, and people who just were curious to know who I'm about, and we are still very close friends until today. So this is not to say that it's impossible to actually meet amazing people out here. It's again another opportunity to build relationships with people from all over the world, and I genuinely challenge people to have a curious mind, because unless you are curious, you might never know what wealth there is in somebody else or in a new interaction. So I always like to step into rooms like everybody doesn't know each other. I don't know this person, I don't know where they come from. And until someone gives me a reason to suspect them or to not want to further my interaction with them, I'm going to ask questions, I'm going to talk to you. Until you send me away, I'm going to be around. Not unknowingly, asking every minute, all of that, but I'm going to ask sufficient questions enough for me to understand if it's a project that we are working on. I'm not going to let my accent or the way I look keep me from pursuing opportunities, because I also didn't travel all this while to just come and disappear in a culture or just lose myself. No, I have goals and I have somewhere I'm going to. And so every of those experiences, I want them to build me up towards the person I want to become. And in order for that to happen, I have to be very objective with every interaction and not take things personally. This is not to say that you'll not have experiences that leave you feeling so bad because somebody outed you or somebody said something racist and things like that. Those experiences do happen. I just choose not to focus my energy on them or people like that, because listen, if in this day and age you think that people are superior because of their skin color or things like that, well, we might be living in two different worlds. So I would rather that you keep living in your world as I continue living in mine. While I mentioned that it's hard to stay in frequent contact with people from back home, I do have friends that I speak to every week because they're intentional about reaching out, and I'm also intentional in the relationship. And I think that moving abroad also moves you to this point where you audit your life and audit the relationships that you have. And you quickly also learn some of those relationships that were only one-sided. And some people, will never check up on you. I don't take it too personally, but I also try to think of it like, oh, maybe, they're also busy, because life is happening for everybody. My whole point is that it's possible to stay connected, but it takes a lot of intentionality from both sides. It's also so important to stay in contact with your friends from back home, even though in my case, I feel like I have missed a lot of milestones that my friends have achieved. They started businesses, some have gotten babies that I've never met. So that makes me want to cry a lot. But I also tell myself, you know what, there's going to come a time where it's going to be different. So staying in touch and just checking on your friends too back home, and people from back home checking on their friends who are living abroad, because chances are that your friend is either, struggling with work or their identity, finances. That's a whole series on its own, and I just don't have the energy to unpack that yet. So check on your friends too. They might post on Instagram and post a highlight on there, but just ask them, how are you for real? And my best friend does a good job of taking care of me. She sends me messages maybe 4 times a week. We schedule calls, and yeah, I'm just happy that some of the relationships I have with people back home have morphed into this new structure that we're having to create so that we adapt staying connected. I constantly remind myself that I'm so much more than everything that I'm experiencing, even though it doesn't feel like that every day. So I do my best to always document my big wins, my small wins, and that's where I advocate for taking pictures and just documenting some of those memories, because on those days that you feel down and those days that you're struggling, um, emotionally and mentally, reminding yourself some of those moments that you felt your best at is gonna help you to get through those seasons. And so I constantly remind myself that, hey, you've done X and X, you built a business from nothing, you just earned your master's degree in a very good school and you did really well in school, you've been able to build new relationships, you've contributed to your workspace, to different spaces, and even beyond what you have done professionally, you have a family that cares about you, you have a husband who cares about you. So it's been very instrumental to just remind myself those things and not allow myself to be swallowed by the weight of building a life abroad. Even though you might not see where you're going or it might not feel like progress, that's how growth feels. And I know people who are watching this that have probably not left home or are thinking about leaving home but are not too sure, might ask themselves, so if it's that hard, then why do people do it? Well, I don't know why people do it, but I know I did it because I wanted a change of environment. I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to pursue my master's degree also. So people do it for different reasons, but it's so important to also check with yourself at every stage in life. If you feel like you're at the point where something is going to take you down or is overwhelming you to a point that you don't know how you're going to get through, asking for help does not mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you are not strong enough. It just means that you're human. I would never encourage anyone to push themselves beyond what they're able to take on or what capacity they're able to, even though this environment needs you to, always be 10 steps ahead. Take as much as you can handle, because at the end of the day there's only one you, and what's the point of working so hard and then fall sick or just struggle mentally. So I'm always one person who's advocating for listening to your body, listening to your mental state, taking those breaks. I try not to work in the weekends so I can recharge myself, express myself a lot creatively, and during the weekends I find time for the things that I love. At the end of the day, nothing good comes easy. Even the people who've been able to build businesses or who've been able to do amazing things, they can tell you for sure it's not been easy. Even if they've just been helping people, in a nonprofit space or things like that, or just out of philanthropy, nobody gets it easy. So you just have to build your mental capacity, but you also have to learn to listen to your body and take care of your health. Another thing is to let these experiences push you to discover yourself. Listen, I thought I was strong mentally and emotionally until I moved abroad. Because tell me why some people are just sent to press all of your buttons in one day or in one conversation. You have to learn how to regulate your emotions and know when to react, how to react, when you just need to walk away. It requires a lot of emotional intelligence. So as much as these experiences feel hard and they feel like, why do I have to go through it? At the end of the day, it's teaching me so much about life. It's teaching me that nobody cares. Listen, nobody people care. Let me not say that. People care, but in the workspace, if you think because you are the best dressed or you smile or say hello to everybody, it's gonna make a difference when people are being laid off and things like that, well, maybe I might have different experiences in the future. Like I mentioned, this is just my third year, so I know there's many things that I'm yet to experience. But I've just learned that nobody owes you nothing. So before you plan out anything, make sure that you have proof of it right there with you before you think that, oh, this is automatically going to work out because this person knows me. Things don't work out like that. Until you see physical evidence of something, just take it as you don't have it yet. Another thing that I want to say is that you don't have to fall into the system. You don't have to drown. You don't have to let what your experiences change you in a negative way. If anything, just use them as stepping stones. Don't take anything personally. Even if someone made a comment that you know was just not from a good place, just don't take anything personally. The most important opinion you'll ever hear is the opinion that you have about yourself. And so work on building the opinion that you have yourself so that whatever is said externally doesn't get to you. Not to say that you should just stomach everything. Stand for yourself and advocate for yourself as often as you have to. Yes, say no, say you can't, say you are not available, period. The only fight you need to engage in is staying authentic and staying true to who you are, despite everything that you experience every single day. If you're a kind person, if you're a good person, don't let these things change you to become a malicious person. Don't do the same things that people are doing to you just so that you can get even. Be authentic always and stay true to who you are. It pays off. It pays off. It pays off, and you live a truthful life because you're being true, you're being authentic. Not everyone's going to accept you in your most authentic self, but be yourself nonetheless. That's all I had time for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.